Hey everybody, Ross here, and this is Bible Study Silverstone. If this is your first time on this channel, click here to go back to the intro, or if you'd just like to see what's been happening recently, click here to go back to Genesis 37. Now without further ado, I'm just going to jump right on in to Genesis 38, verse 1. It came to pass at that time that Judah departed from his brothers, and visited a certain Adullamite, whose name was Hira. And Judah saw there a daughter of a certain Canaanite, whose name was Shua. And he married her, and went into her. So she conceived, and bore a son. And he called his name She conceived again, and bore a son, and called his name Onan. And she conceived yet again, and bore a son, and called his name Shelah. He was at Chezib when she bore him. Then Judah took a wife for his firstborn, and her name was Tamar. But Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord killed him. And Judah said to Onan, "Go in to your brother's wife, and marry her, and raise up an heir to your brother." But Onan knew that the heir would not be his. And it came to pass, when he went into his brother's wife, that he admitted on the ground, lest he should give an heir to his brother. And the thing which he did displeased the Lord, therefore he killed him also. Then Judah said to Tamar his daughter-in-law, "Remain a widow in your father's house till my son Shelah is grown." For he said, lest he also die like his brothers. And Tamar went and dwelt in her father's house. Now in the process of time, the daughter of Shua, Judah's wife, died. And Judah was comforted, and went up to his sheep shearers at Timnah, he and his friend Hira the Adullamite. And was told Tamar, saying, "Look, your father-in-law is going up to Timnah to shear his sheep." So she took off her widow's garments, covered herself with a veil, and wrapped herself, and sat in an open place which was on the way to Timnah. For she saw that Shelah was grown. She was not given to him as a wife. When Judah saw her, he thought she was a harlot, because she had covered her face. Then he turned to her by the way and said, "Please let me come in to you." For he did not know that she was his daughter-in-law. So she said, "What will you give me, that you may come in to me?" And he said, "I will send a young goat from the flock." So she said, "Will you give me a pledge till you send it?" And he said, "What pledge shall I give you?" So she said, "Your signet and cord, and your staff that is in your hand." And he gave them to her, and went into her, and she conceived by him. So she arose, and went away, and laid aside her veil, and put on the garments of her widowhood. And Judah sent the young goat by the hand of his friend the Adullamite, to receive his pledge from the woman's hand. But he did not find her. Then he asked the men of that place, saying, "Where is the harlot who was openly by the roadside?" And they said, "There is no harlot in this place." So he returned to Judah, and said, "I cannot find her." Also, the men of the place said, "There was no harlot in this place." Then Judah said, "Let her take them for herself, lest we be shamed. For I sent this young goat, and you have not found her." And it came to pass, about 3 months after, that Judah was told, saying, "Tamar, your daughter-in-law, has played the harlot. Furthermore, she is with child by harlotry." So Judah said, "Bring her out, and let her be burned." When she was brought out, she sent to her father-in-law, saying, "By the man to whom these belong, I am with child." And she said, "Please determine whose these are, the signet and cord and staff." So Judah acknowledged them, and said, she's been more righteous than I, because I did not give her to Shelah my son, and he never knew her again. Now it came to pass, at the time for giving birth, that behold, twins were in her womb. And so it was, when she was giving birth, that the one put out his hand, and the midwife took a scarlet thread and bound it on his wrist, saying, "This one came out first." Then it happened, as he drew back his hand, that his brother came out unexpectedly. And she said, "How did you break through? This breach is upon you." Therefore his name was called Perez. Afterward his brother came out, who had the scarlet thread on his hand, and his name was called Zerah. Alright, with Joseph being introduced as the main character in chapter 37, why are we suddenly reading about Judah's experiences? The only explanation, considering the content of the chapter, is to show the continual progression of the line that will eventually lead to Jesus. Now, it's unclear why Judah left his father and brothers, but it is clear that his morality had declined. Right away we see him intermingling with the Canaanite society, marrying one of their women, and having children in that society. His immorality was no better in his children. His firstborn, was killed by God through some unspecified wickedness before he could give Tamar, his wife, a child. Because he had not given her a child, the task fell to Onan to give Tamar a child that would carry on Er's name. If he didn't, Er's line and name would end, which was a really big deal for the people of that time. Now, Onan married Tamar, as he was supposed to, and I'm trying to be really family friendly here, he didn't give her the child when the time came, for selfish reasons, so God killed Onan too. Now, because Onan also failed to give Tamar a child, the task fell to the last of Judah's sons, Shelah. Apparently, though, Shelah was not yet fully grown, so he couldn't fulfill his duty right away. Judah promised Shelah to Tamar without any real intention to follow through. He was afraid that the marriage would result in the death of his final son, and thus leaving him in the same predicament as and Onan, heirless and soon forgotten. So he told Tamar to go and live with her father until Shelah grew up, which was customary for widows to do in this sort of situation. Eventually, Tamar figured out that Judah had no intention of following through on his promise, and so she set about to trick him into giving her a child himself. The fact that she used prostitution in order to trick Judah further shows his moral decline, as well as the overall moral level of the society he lived in. She must have known it would work for her to resort to it first. Since payment for the deed was promised for a later time, Tamar asked for a pledge that would be returned upon payment. The items she asked for as a pledge, though, were ones that could only belong to Judah himself and could be used to identify him. When the time for payment came, Tamar had disappeared, leaving her with Judah's belongings. When his friend couldn't find her, Judah decided to cut his losses and not seek her further, as it would have brought shame upon him, as if he didn't have enough already. Anyway, It's unclear how it was discovered that Tamar had conceived through prostitution, but when it was, Judah was ready to burn her alive. What a hypocrite. Here he is ready to kill her for prostitution, when it's very probable that she was not the first prostitute he had solicited in his time. Now, then Tamar revealed the items that identified Judah as both the solicitor and the father of her twins. She had him cornered for not only soliciting her, but for denying her Shelah as her husband and heir giver. Game, set, match, Tamar. Now, when Judah acknowledged the items and what had happened, he said she was more righteous than himself. Make no mistake, neither one of them were righteous in this situation. What he meant by that was that he neglected to follow through on his promise to give Tamar, and by extension her, a child through Shelah, that she was willing to do whatever was necessary to obtain that child. And finally, now we come to it, the whole point of this chapter. When Tamar's twins were born, the second forced his way out before the first. His name was Perez, which means breach or passing through, pushing through. It is Perez who will continue the line of Judah and eventually lead to Jesus. And that's all I have for today. Thanks for watching. If you have any comments, feedback, or suggestions, leave them down below in a video response or in the comments. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you all soon in Genesis 39.